The Miami Dolphins playoff hopes remain alive another week, winning in Cleveland against the Browns 22-3. No Tua Tagovailoa, no issue for Miami. It was not the most smooth start to the game. It was very much up and down, but a shutout in the second half where the Dolphins actually outscored Cleveland 14-0 after they led 6-3 at the half. A dominant performance from the defense. Tyler Huntley played an excellent half of football in the second half. He actually played a really good game in general, but in that second half was really good stuff from Tyler Huntley. And with that being said, the Dolphins now have an 8-8 record, and due to the other events happening through NFL Week 17, Miami has a very decent chance to make the NFL postseason, which I did not think I could have told you that 2 weeks ago after losing on the road to the Houston Rockets. We'll detail exactly what is needed at the end of today's show, but I do want to talk about this game more in depth because it was frustrating at times due to the inability for the Miami Dolphins to run the football once again. It has been a common theme all year long. They have been unable to run the football when they need to. But you can thank Tyler Huntley for getting this game to a winning spot. I mean, you look at the numbers. Devon Achane couldn't run. 10 carries, 25 yards. And by the way, if Mike McDaniel, you're watching this, I've had absolutely enough of the halfback tosses. I get it. Mix them in there. It can pop. Get your athletes in space. That is what you pride your offensive line on being. It's what you pride your running backs on being. But you guys run halfback tosses for what feels like 50% of the rush attempts. And I clearly just do not want to see it anymore. I'm sick of it. Can we get more normal standard rushing plays? I'm just begging you to go more north-south. And I get it. You can't run up the middle that productively either. Well, that's more on Chris Grier for not having good left guard or right guard. But that's a different story for a different day, and I don't really want to talk about the downfalls of this offensive line, and I want to speak more positively of this team for going on the road and getting a 17-point win. And the one person you have to give all the love to is the man who stepped in at quarterback, Tyler Huntley. Efficiency personified. 22 of 26 throwing the football, 225 yards, one touchdown, which was the dagger when you led 13-3 with 5 minutes to go. Do a nice little RPO out route to Jonnu Smith, who is just continuing his record-setting season for Dolphins tight end with a touchdown. Wasn't that active, but was able to find pay dirt. That was the one throwing touchdown for Huntley. He did add another one on the ground. Huntley was awesome. And was it a completely smooth 60 minutes offensively for Miami? No. But when you talk about the Dolphins not being able to have a competent backup the last 4 seasons for Tua Tagovailoa, dealing with Skylar Thompson, dealing with Tim Boyle. Huntley played 3 games earlier this season, went 1-2. Well, he's now 2-2 on the year as a starter. You go 500 as a starter, as a backup quarterback in the NFL when your number is called to be a starter. No one's going to complain about that. And I know the 4 games are against 4 of the worst teams in football: Colts, Browns, Titans, Patriots. Doesn't matter. Backup quarterbacks going 500 is what you need. And Huntley, we'll talk about it later up this week as well, because the rumors are that the Dolphins would like to bring Tyler Huntley back, but they won't guarantee him the backup role. They'll like to have him back to compete to be Tua's backup next season. Well, I would absolutely bring him back. He's shown enough in this 4-game start this year to at least give him a shot to be the backup. We'll talk more about Huntley in just a second. But what was your biggest takeaway from this win of the Miami Dolphins? Get down in the comment section and let me know. Maybe the biggest takeaway was the fact that Huntley should be the backup quarterback for the Dolphins next year. Maybe it's the fact that Miami still has a chance to win the playoffs. Maybe it's a Mike McDaniel thing because even though the win happened, I am not pleased with the way Mike McDaniel coached this game and the way he had his team looking early in this ball game. We'll talk more about that later, but I do got to show some love to our sponsor on today's show, which is DraftKings. It's the most wonderful time of the year for getting in on all the hoops, football, and hockey action at DraftKings Sportsbook. In the season of giving, we're being gifted college football and basketball, pro football and basketball, and pro hockey too, almost 24/7. And here's a gift for all new customers. Bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code HEATCHAT. That's code HEATCHAT for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Happy holidays from DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/bball. I'm always going to be transparent when it comes to my plays on DraftKings. Well, it was not a good day for me in NFL Week 17. I went 0 for 2 on my 2 separate straight bets. I took the over 32.5. Listen, system play, I always got to take the overs if it's in the 30s. That didn't work out for me. You see there, I only got to 23 points. And how about this one? Devon Achane. I thought it was a lock for him to get 4 receptions today. He had 2 receptions on the first drive and then did not have another one for the rest of the game. Lines and odds, subject to change when you play DraftKings, but download the app. Use promo code HEATCHAT when signing up to get $150 in bonus bets if you win a $5 bet. Shout out to DraftKings for sponsoring today's show. All right, let's get back into this game now because Huntley was great. We showed his stats, 22-26, 225 yards, 1 pass touchdown. He also led the team in rushing, 52 rushing yards for Tyler Huntley on 7 carries, and also had a rushing touchdown. And one of our keys to victory this week, and probably the number one key to victory, was his ability to, or let me rephrase, asking Mike McDaniel to simplify the playbook. He did that in the second half. And by the way, I said 7 carries, 52 yards. These stats exclude the QB kneel down, which is probably more accurate representation of his day on the ground anyway. Because when Huntley was the starting quarterback in the first 4 weeks or 3 weeks that he played, I thought that the Dolphins didn't do a good enough job of making it easy for him. They wanted him to run the offense like Tua does, with the multiple motions, the reading the defense, the quick anticipatory throws over the middle of the field. I feel like they did just too much of what Tua does on offense. And Tyler Huntley is not Tua, for better or for worse, right? He either is better in terms of his mobility and his ability to run the football RPO game because he's more of a threat to extend plays as well and evade pressure. That's the positive stuff that Huntley brings to the table. The negatives is that he isn't as accurate as Tua. He isn't as good at anticipating and finding the tight holes in opposing defenses when they play zone or play man-to-man and he sees it coming across the middle right before the safeties crunch down. There are very different quarterbacks. And I thought that early in the year, Mike McDaniel ran the offenses too similar. Well, today, I think there was difference. I think in the beginning of the game, it was a little bit chaotic. But then once the Dolphins settled down into this one, and they were able to really hone in on what makes Tyler Huntley special as an NFL athlete, as an NFL quarterback, they played much better. I think everyone would agree in that second half. They did a lot more RPOs. They did a lot more quarterback designed runs and getting him out on the edges, using his mobility. And once they started to incorporate that more into their play calling and game plan, they were able to move the football and score 2 touchdowns. I mean, what was the play that Huntley scored the first touchdown on to go up 13-3? It was an RPO where he had the option to drop it down to Julian Hill, and instead of doing that and picking up 4 or 5 yards and making it 2nd and goal or 2nd and 10 inside the 10 or 2nd and 5 inside the 10, he kept his self alive, scrambled out, said, Julian Hill, turn around, block. And then he was able to scramble, make a guy miss on the sideline, cut up field, and get into the end zone. Huntley did a lot of positive things, and I absolutely am in the business of bringing him back this offseason. I don't know what the contract would look like, but I would love to bring in Huntley to be the backup. My ideal, I don't want to look to the offseason because there's still a lot to talk about, and we'll do that here in just a second. But I would love to bring Huntley back on a cheap deal, draft a quarterback in the middle rounds, and have your quarterback room being Tua, Tyler Huntley, and then whatever young quarterback you try to develop, you draft him in the 4th, 5th, 6th round, somewhere in that range. You always want a developmental guy. I think that's where you proceed in the offseason, which is why you subscribe, because we'll break it down for you. All right, let's talk about some other quick players before we get into the playoffs. Tyreek Hill, 9 catches, 105 yards. He was great today. The Browns, foolishly, played a lot of one-on-one coverage with Tyreek Hill with not a lot of safety help, and Tyreek Hill took advantage of it. Good bounce-back performance for him after one of his worst games of his career last week. Yes, he had a touchdown on 3 catches for 26 yards, but a pair of big-time drops. Good to see Tyreek Hill back into his normal self this week. Hopefully he's able to have a good game next week as well against the New York Jets. Jonnu Smith wasn't that involved in the passing game, but like I mentioned, touchdown late to seal it, going up to 20-3 rather than 13-3. Jonnu Smith having the best season in history of the Dolphins franchise for a tight end. Most receptions, most yards. It's unbelievable. Malik Washington continues to showcase what he can bring to the table. 4 catches, 41 yards. Had a bad drop, but other than that, had played some good football over the middle of the field. I'm excited for Malik Washington's future. I think there's a decent chance that he's brought back. He's obviously under contract, but brought back to be the slot receiver next year for Miami. We'll see what happens with Tyreek Hill. There's a chance, small chance, but he could get moved off of. You have Jalen Waddle back. I'd like to bring in a big body physical receiver on the outside, but having Washington on the inside with Waddle and whatever other third receiver is a good start. I like what Malik's brought to the table. He's getting more PT as it goes on, and I'm excited to see what he can do next week, assuming Jalen Waddle is healthy and able to go. All right, let's end the show with some talk on the playoffs. This is where things stand up to the moment in the AFC. There is only 3 teams left available for the final spot. Divisions are clinched. A couple wild card spots are clinched for Pittsburgh and Los Angeles. Cincinnati and Miami are both alive at 8-8. Denver at 9-7. The Dolphins have a very simple path to the NFL postseason. They have to beat the New York Jets in NFL Week 18. And they need the Broncos to lose to the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs have the number 1 seed already clinched. It is being rumored and reported that the Chiefs will not be playing Patrick Mahomes in this game. So it will be fully reliant on Carson Wentz to beat the Denver Broncos. There's no reason to worry about the Bengals. It is very clear. A win for Miami and a loss from Denver has the Dolphins in the playoffs, no matter what Cincinnati does next week. So you don't even have to care about that game. 2 games matter next week. Dolphins being the Jets and the Broncos losing to the Chiefs. We'll have the full NFL schedule out on Sunday night. We'll probably let you know what it is on Monday morning. But let me know. Will the Dolphins make the playoffs? Yes or no? Is it weird to have confidence in Carson Wentz going on the road to beat the Chiefs? Maybe. Listen, anything can happen in the NFL. The Colts lost to the tanking Drew Lock Giants today. And I would say the Chiefs with Carson Wentz and some backups are probably a still better team than what the Giants put out today. You never know, folks. You never know in the NFL. But make sure you are subscribed because we will have videos every single day this week leading up to the final weekend of the NFL regular season where the Dolphins take on the Jets in New York. The Broncos host the Kansas City Chiefs, and we'll see if the Dolphins can make a surprising trip to the NFL postseason. By the way, if they make the playoffs, it will be to Buffalo. The top 2 seeds are already clinched. Chiefs 1 seed, Bills 2 seed. So if the Dolphins make the playoffs, it could only be the 7th spot, which they would be going against the Bills in the final or the first week of the postseason. We'll see what ultimately happens, but that's why you subscribe.